Hello and a warm welcome to News Central Now. I am Felicity Eziwike. News Central Now at this hour begins in the east of the continent, where Ethiopia's government communication service minister, Legesse Tulu, has assured that all forces fighting in Tigray who are not part of the federal army will withdraw as soon as the rebels disarm. Amhara and Afar regional forces, as well as Eritrean troops, have been fighting alongside the federal forces in a two-year war against the rebels of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The government and the TPLF signed a peace agreement on November 2 in Pretoria, South Africa, to end the war in the north of the country. Also, the army and rebel commanders signed a cessation of hostilities agreement in Nairobi, Kenya, on November 12. Staying in the region, in South Sudan, Parliament has unanimously endorsed the extension of the transitional period that was agreed upon by the parties to the revitalized peace agreement in August. This is according to Speaker Jema Nunu Kumba. The bill to amend the transitional constitution and incorporate the roadmap into it was presented by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Ruben Madol Aro. Before being forwarded to the president for final signature, Kumba stated that the bill's endorsement had been reached by consensus and that it had been referred to the Parliamentary Committee on Legislation and Legal Affairs. The agreement signed by President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar this year was extended from February 2022 to February 2025 with intention of the parties to conduct the general elections in December 2024. Still in the region, the bodies of a Kenyan man and his wife have been recovered from the wreckage of their home, which was struck by a 6-story structure under construction near Nairobi, the country's capital. The dead have been delivered to a nearby morgue. 3 survivors, according to emergency personnel, have been transported to a hospital. Local media also mentioned the arrival of representatives from the Disaster Response Unit. Let's head to the southern part of the continent now, where South Africa is pleased, together with the multidisciplinary team led by Interpol South Africa, organized crime detectives, crime intelligence and the Special Task Force have arrested a 46-year-old Israeli gang leader attached to a criminal organization in Israel called the Abigail Organization. The wanted fugitive has been arrested together with 7 others at a house in Bryanston. During an operation on Thursday morning, the police pounced on an identified address in Bryanston and found the suspect and 7 others, while 12 firearms, including 5 assault rifles and 7 pistols, $40,000, 3 suspected stolen motorcycles were seized. The Israeli gang leader has been on Interpol's red notice from 2015. He is a wanted suspect in Israel for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. According to Israeli authorities, the suspect is part of a notorious gang dealing in drug trafficking, extortion, and other criminal activities.
A team led by Interpol South Africa, organized crime, crime intelligence, detectives, and the Special Task Force Unit have arrested a 46-year-old Israeli gang leader attached to the Abigail Organization. The fugitive was arrested together with 7 others in Bryanston this morning. During an early morning raid, the team pounced on an identified address in Bryanston where they found the suspects, 12 firearms, including 5 assault rifles, 7 pistols, $40,000, as well as 3 suspected stolen motorcycles. According to Israeli authorities, the suspect is wanted in connection with conspiracy to commit murder and murder in Israel. According to these authorities, between 2003 and 2004, the suspect placed a bomb on a vehicle in 2 incidents. In both these incidents, at least 8 people were seriously injured. The suspect has been on Interpol's red notice since 2015.
Staying in the South and in South Africa, the Parliament will extend its 4th term to deal with the highly anticipated independent panel report on the Phala Phala farm allegations. Political parties on Thursday unanimously agreed to debate the report on December 6 at a meeting of the National Assembly's Programme Committee. This follows a 2-week extension granted by the National Assembly NA Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa Nkakula for the panel to conclude its work. The panel is probing impeachment allegations against President Cyril Ramaphosa, considering claims of a cover-up of a robbery at his Limpopo farm in February 2020. Staying in the region, a Zimbabwean court has ordered the release of 14 opposition members of the Citizen Coalition for Change arrested in June at the funeral of an opposition supporter. The opposition members are released on bail, while firebrand lawyer Job Sikala remains detained at a maximum security prison on the outskirts of Harare. Sikala is accused of disturbing police investigations into the murder of Ali after he allegedly posted a video demanding justice for her murder. News Centre's Adeshewa Odushoga has details in this report.
After spending 5 months in jail, these opposition activists are released to reunite with their families. They are members of the main opposition Citizens Coalitions for Change who were arrested after clashes with the ruling party members at a funeral for an opposition supporter, More Blessings Ali, whose mutilated body was found in a well. They were arrested alongside firebrand lawyer Job Sikala and lawmaker Godfrey Sitol for allegedly inciting violence to avenge the death of the slain CCC activist. A Zimbabwean court had ordered their release with a bail charge of 50,000 Zimbabwe dollars each.
Justice denied. It's not justice delayed. It's justice denied. That is, but hatiskumira. Njo struggle yacho. Kwatiri kuenda uko hakuna umira mushi. And isisu sema champions we are prepared for any. We are prepared to defend vote redu.
Lawmaker Sitole was released last week, but Sikala, who has been arrested 67 times and never been convicted, remains detained at a maximum security prison on the outskirts of Harare.
The conditions at the prisons or at the cells, they are not fit for human habitation, and we were actually confined in a cell which was lice infested, urine smelling, and it was at the peak of the winter season.
The jailed members of the opposition CCC were released just days after a mission from the Commonwealth arrived to assess if conditions were conducive to warrant Zimbabwe's readmissions into the grouping of mainly former British colonies. Amnesty International terms the case political and a travesty of justice as the country goes into election in 2023. Adeshewa Odushoga reporting for News Central.
Thank you, Adeshewa. An official language is a language given supreme status in a particular country, state, or other jurisdiction. Many of the world's constitutions mention one or more official or national languages. For years, the official language in Mali has been French, but now a debate is ongoing, proposing a new official language. News Centre's Bettina Uweli tells us more.
In Mali, a few lines in the country's draft constitution are fueling an ongoing debate about what its official language or languages should be. According to a specialist in social linguistics and language policy, trends have shown since the draft constitution was released that the majority of Malians are in favor of national languages having a greater place in the public sphere.
Depuis la première constitution, on avait dit que dès lors que les langues seront outillées, instrumentées et instrumentalisées, donc le pays va s'en servir comme langue officielle. C'est programmé depuis longtemps, mais on n'est pas venu précipitamment à cela.
On a commencé un processus en parlant de généralisation de l'enseignement de langue nationale, de l'utilisation des langues nationales dans l'école. Mais ça a été, de mon point de vue, un coup d'épée dans l'eau, parce qu'en dépit des grands moyens injectés, de l'engagement des écrivains ou des éditeurs, eh bien, c'est resté lettre morte.
Since Mali gained independence from France in 1960, French has been the language of government business used on road signs and in state TV broadcasts. Now, local languages such as Bambara, which is the country's most used language, are being suggested as additions to or even a replacement of French as the official language.
C'est une langue qui est vraiment important dans notre société car tous les Maliens, toute la population malienne a parle presque dans ce langue, quoi. Donc c'est très important d'apprendre le Bamanankan.
Tout le monde, voilà, je dirais certains pensent qu'on va leur imposer les Bamanankan. Mais il n'y aura pas d'imposition. Tout ça sera discuté parce qu'il ne s'agit pour le moment que d'un avant-projet. Et d'ailleurs, l'avant-projet ne dit pas du tout que le Bamanankan sera la langue officielle.
Mali has scores of its own languages, which is why, for some, it rankles that the tongue of the former colonial ruler is the only official language. A few lines in the country's draft constitution are now fanning calls for change, albeit at the cost of reminding the West African nation of some of its many problems. Bettina Nwili, reporting for News Central.
Thank you, Bettina. Let's head to West Africa, where the world's longest-standing ruler, Teodoro Obiang, will rerun for election in Equatorial Guinea to extend his 45-year rule marked by alleged rights abuses and corruption. The West African oil producing nation, of around 1.5 million, has had only 2 presidents since independence from Spain in 1968. International observers have questioned the 80-year-old Obiang's plans to be re-elected for his 6th term against 2 other candidates, Andre Ondo and Buenaventura Asumo. Parliamentary and local elections are expected to be held at the same time. France has given Niger Republic 2 attack helicopters to boost its fight against extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda. The authorities unveiled the aircraft at a ceremony in the capital, Niamey. Niger's Defense Minister Al-Kassoum Indato said the delivery of the equipment was part of military cooperation between the 2 countries. Officials say the helicopters have reconnaissance, surveillance and attack capabilities. Niger Republic, a former French colony, had received 3 similar helicopters back in 2013 from France. The delivery of the aircraft comes barely a week after French President Emmanuel Macron announced the end of a decade-long French counter-terrorism mission in the Sahel region known as Operation Barakani. In neighboring Nigeria, authorities in the country's northwestern state of Kaduna have confirmed the death of a top militia leader during a shootout with the army. A state government spokesman said Kachala Gudao was among scores of gunmen killed when they attacked a military facility. It's alleged he was responsible for multiple kidnappings, killings, and illicit drug operations. It came as the Nigerian Air Force said it had carried out airstrikes and bandit hideouts in several locations within the state, killing scores of them. As Nigeria's presidential election inches near, security forces appear to have stepped up their attacks on suspected gangs. Away from that, the Ghanaian government has disowned a security update advising its citizens against non-essential trips to Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration says Ghana is not aware of any threat targeted at its nationals living in Abuja. It also expressed regrets for the inconveniences its previously alleged travel advisory may have caused to the traveling public. Some Nigerians have called for proper investigation into a recent report which claims the Chinese government is running its own police stations in Nigeria. The report released by international human rights organization Safeguard Defenders claims the stations have been set up by the Chinese government to curb crime among its nationals. News Central's Amadine Uyi tells us more.
China's foray in Africa has seen Chinese investment on the continent grow significantly in the span of 20 years. From a sum of about $74.8 million in 2003 to about $4.2 billion in 2020, it is clear that China is currently investing in several areas on the continent like infrastructure, energy, oil and gas, among others.
With China's assistance, a large number of railway, highway, airport, ports, hydropower, telecommunication, as well as economic and trade cooperation zones have been built or are under construction.
with estimated loans between 2000 to 2019 now approximately $153 billion. This has also seen an influx of Chinese nationals working in various sectors on the continent. While approximate figures confirm that over 1 million Chinese workers currently live in Africa, several African countries now have large communities of Chinese migrants. With a large number of Chinese nationals finding home on the continent, comes the problem of ensuring they obey laid-down rules and regulations. One notable case is the recent murder of a young Nigerian by a Chinese lover. While the case sparked national condemnation, a recent report released by international human rights organization Safeguard Defenders reveals that China has set up several police stations across different countries of the world, including Nigeria, to deal with truant nationals. The Chinese embassy and the Nigeria police have refused to confirm the authenticity of this report. They refused entreaties to have a short interview with New Central Television, though the Chinese embassy later issued a short statement claiming the report is false. But for some Nigerians, they say the report paints a worrisome picture, especially as it has to do with the sovereignty of Nigeria.
Even when you had UN forces in several countries around the world, they don't establish this kind of police. They are recognized laws that guide this kind of establishment. So I think if this particular information we're hearing is true, to say that this is quite unfortunate.
Nigerians who live in China abide by the laws of the People's Republic of China. If they break the law, they are judged under the laws of the People's Republic of China. So why should we have a different system when Chinese citizens break laws in Nigeria? And instead of being punished according to our laws, the Chinese citizens are being sent to the so-called Chinese police stations.
Several New Central Television spoke to say Nigeria must put its foot on the ground to protect its image and ensure its sovereignty is not infringed on.
If you want to be respected on the international scene, you should ensure that all those who come within your boundaries live and conduct themselves in accordance with the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
There is no right-thinking government that will accept that. An idea to say that even if it's going to happen in other African countries, I don't see it happening in Nigeria, because I think we're above this kind of situation. We're a stronger nation, we're a viable nation, we're a nation that constitution is working and rule of laws are working. That even if you're a foreigner that commit offense, our laws should guide for you and work for you.
From Abuja, Amadine Uyi, New Central Television.
You're watching New Central now. Coming up, amid Turkey deal spat, Greek foreign minister snobs Libyan counterpart. We have details of this story and more after the break. Join us again. Up north, Greek Foreign Minister Nikos Dentias snubbed his Libyan counterpart on Thursday, abandoning a planned visit to Tripoli to avoid being welcomed by the top diplomat of a government allied with arch-rival Turkey. Libyan Foreign Minister Najla Al-Mangush was left waiting on the tarmac at Tripoli airport when Dentias refused to disembark from his plane and instead flew on to the second city of Benghazi, where a rival administration holds sway. Dentia's visit to the divided North African nation comes after Libya's Tripoli-based government signed a deal with Ankara over exploration for Mediterranean oil and gas that is bitterly contested by Athens. Mangosh's ministry said it would take appropriate diplomatic measures in response. In Central Africa, United Nations Deputy High Commissioner for Refugees, Kelly Clements, is calling for increased international support to areas and communities where Burundian refugees are opting to return home. More than 200,000 Burundian refugees have returned from neighboring countries since 2017. Clements visited Burundi to raise the profile of UNHCR's refugee response in the country and called for more investment and support for the reintegration of Burundian refugee returnees. More than 200,000 Burundian refugees have returned since 2017.
I'm in the Gitari Transit Center here in southern Burundi, about 10 kilometers from the Tanzanian border. And here behind me, there are about 400 Burundian refugees that have chosen to come back here to Burundi after spending many years in Tanzania. They are really looking forward to going back to their homes. They're receiving some non-food items, some cash, some ways to start their new lives anew. We thank the local authorities for the support that they've provided to make their return possible. The conditions in their areas of origin, their original homes, they don't know yet what they're going to find. But we're here, UNHCR, with a number of partners. We have development and investment that are coming to this.
The first day of Thailand's hosting of international leaders for the APEC summit has seen about 20 protesters gather in downtown Bangkok to call for General Prayut Chan-o-cha's resignation and the repeal of the country's lèse-majesté law. The Rathdom Yacht, or APEC 2022, known as People Stop APEC 2002, group gathered at the Lam Kon Muong Square outside City Hall in a bid to publicize the main problems in each region and the government's unrighteous attitude.
If you look at his tyrannical history, by coming here, joining the meeting, you're legitimizing his prime ministership, and he doesn't represent the people. If we would have the election tomorrow, he would not have prime minister. He would not be in a position of prime ministership. So we want to send this message that you should not join this meeting to legitimize his position.
เขาบอกว่า APEC เนี่ยส่งเสริมการค้าแต่ชาวนา
The World Bank Group has announced a new Blue Economy program that will catalyze financing and provide an operational response to development challenges in coastal marine areas of Nigeria and other African countries. The Blue Economy for Resilient Africa program was announced at a COP27 World Bank event. The program seeks to respond to the challenge coastal countries face to manage their coastal and marine resources to spur economic growth and reduce poverty while adapting to the effects of climate change. And that's all at this hour from our newsroom. Do follow us on social media for more. We are at News Central TV. You can download our mobile app on the App Store and Play Store for On The Go, or you could watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for watching.